All right, recording has started, and this is the March 23rd, 2023. A lot of 23s up in that one, Crossplane community meeting. So I will drop a link right now into the Zoom chat to help you all directly get to the agenda document. There it is in the Zoom chat now. The agenda document is open for comments and suggestions, so feel free to put any topic that you want to, most likely down in the community topics and questions section. And we will get to it today for sure. All right, so let's jump into milestone checkup stuff. I think on the day of the last community meeting on March 9th, we had a slew of patch releases that went out for some of the security advisories that were open from the fuzz testing effort. So we already talked about those ones. And in the 2 weeks since then, there has not, to my knowledge, been a Crossplane runtime or a Crossplane patch release. So I don't think there's any recent releases to talk about there. And we could go ahead on to the 1.12 milestone instead. So we are almost exactly a month away from 1.12. Note that code freeze is in 3 weeks and feature freeze is in 2 weeks. So we definitely have some big features that are still outstanding and have not landed yet. But we will get into more details on that. Jean will walk us through some of the big features that folks are working on. But let's go ahead and take a look at the board right now then. Actually, let's scope this to 1.12. All right, so Nick and I took a pass through this board just yesterday. So we believe it should be fairly up to date. And obviously there's a lot of stuff that's in progress right now. So we want to start closing some of these out and getting them over to the done column as we are getting closer and closer to our feature freeze and code freeze dates. So Jean, you have a whole section with updates below for the major features that your team is reporting, delivering on. Do you want to just go ahead and do those now since we're looking at the board? Yeah,
no problem. So we've pretty much on observability resources, we've been pausing the work on that a bit. It's functional end to end. There's a whole bunch of PRs that are open that has received some reviews, and we've resolved some comments on them. But we pulled our resources more into focusing on external secret stores and getting that out of the door. And that's pretty much close to completion now. We've merged the external secret store API and client implementation this week, and the Vault store now exists as a reference implementation for external secret stores. So there's a few minor things that we need to wrap up, but it's pretty much there. And we should move back onto observability resources and closing that off next week. And then on composition validations, webhook. So Lovro, do you actually want to give a quick update on that since you're on the call?
Sure. Well, yeah, so we are progressing. We already have some POC code ready, and as written here, we did some internal review, and we decided to maybe split it into smaller chunks, which will be easier to merge. So basically looking good, and hoping that soon we'll be creating the concrete PRs for that.
All right. And then previously we thought we could get the ignore changes on work in as well, but due to kind of like a lack of alignment on the what the right approach might be to take on the design proposal, it's not going to make it into 1.12, and we'll kind of like keep pushing to try and get kind of like a solution that fits the needs. It might also be better just to wait for observability resources to land and see how that might help the situation. And we'll see how that goes. So that's pretty much it. There's a couple of smaller things that we're looking at as well. That's on the board that I didn't put updates on here. They're mostly 3139, which I think Laura actually just added a comment that this is actually working in the latest Crossplane, but not in 1.10 and 1.9. So, and a few other, Hassan is looking to fix the last of the back off not working scenarios as well. And if you scroll down, Jared, in progress column, Eski's having a look at the tag deleted from claim spec being added back. And there's one that the fuzz testing work is now being completed as well. That's all in place as well by Philippe. So, yeah.
All right, so there's obviously a lot going on and a lot of investments being made right now. So John, just to be totally clear, you expect with your team that for the 1.12 timeframe still that observe-only resources, validating compositions via webhook, and the pluggable external secret source, those three major features are all still on track for 1.12 timeframe?
Yes.
Perfect. That sounds great to me. And I know there's a lot of other highly demanded or impactful bug fixes that Jean talked about as well. So let me peruse through the columns here and see if there's some other things. Oh yeah, something else to mention for 1.12 timeframe is a community contributor stepped up and is making a number of fixes that's work towards promoting or maturing composition functions to beta. So for instance, I think these two, or at least a couple of them, and then, looks like this one might have been merged. So yeah, so like at least 3 issues here around using composition functions have gotten some progress and should be in for the 1.12 timeframe. So this one here, I think, was an issue with the version of crun that we use. Yeah, so Andrew is the contributor's name. I don't know if they're on the call today, but definitely want to give them a shout out for stepping up and fixing a number of issues with the alpha implementation of composition functions. So Andrew, thank you for that if you happen to watch this later. And then also adding the ability to essentially publish your composition functions to a private repository and then use image pull secrets to pull the container image with your composition function implementation down and execute it there is another one of the ones in progress. So some good progress being made on maturing composition functions to beta. Obviously, we are not going to make that change in 1.12, declaring them beta. There's a number of issues that are still being worked out, and there is a tracking issue for that where I think it's probably because it's not in 1.12. Let me see if I can find yeah, here it is. So that's the issue for it. And so yeah, a number of these are in progress right now, and then in 1.13 timeframe, we'll also be tackling more of these. As more feedback comes in on composition functions, do feel free to continue adding ideas and things that you would like to see progressed and matured to this issue here at 3751 for continuing to mature composition functions. And Jason, yes, if you have a composition function issue that's already opened and it's not in captured in the task list here, I don't know if you'd be able to edit it, but just feel free to add a comment on it to link to your issue, and then or ping me, and then we'll make sure that it gets into that list also. All right, let's see what else is in the board here that's worth talking about. Jesse, do you want to give us any updates on package signature validation? Anything you need to share there?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually was putting together the pull request on my latest branch rebased against the current master last night, and there is a couple of questions I have about direction that I'm not prepared to show right now. I was just kind of running to get to my office. But I will ping folks in Slack. The long and the short of it is everything is wired up behind a feature flag now. Because of my my relative newbie use of Go, there was some issue with how to overload some of the existing classes, or types, but clearly you can't do that with Go. So I've gone a different route, but because of that, I'm not liking the way the code is looking. There's there's some two-way dependency kind of stuff that's just a little weird. So I want to get some other eyes on it, and I will formulate that. But long and the short of it is that it passes the make reviewable. I've been able to kind of get it up and running, and see that the intended functionality is there. It's just the beautification of the code that needs to be done now. So I'd be happy to have some input.
Beautification, I like that
Yeah.
terminology there. That's a great way to capture that, Jesse. Awesome, man. Thanks for sharing that update, and then thanks for your continued effort on that feature as well. I know that it is a useful and impactful feature, so we'll try to get you some of the feedback and to help out with that direction and getting that closer.
Great.
All right. Okay, so I think then we basically talked about everything that's in progress that does not also have a later agenda topic to focus on it. So is Bob on the call today? I don't think so. Okay. I'll try to sync up with Bob to see if he's making progress on these two issues that he's got for default values for some of the policy things in composition, and see if they can make that for 1.12 still. Okay, so then let's go ahead and open it up for any other questions directly related to 1.12. I know we got a question in the chat about providers that I added to the agenda document, so we'll get to that as well. But anything else about 1.12 that folks wanted to bring up before we move on?
Well, I have one down in the bottom on composition functions, but we can wait till the end.
Sounds good. Sounds good. We'll do that.
All right. Environment configs for 1.12.
That's that's in the agenda document as well, specifically below. Yep, we got that there as well too, Yuri. So yeah, we'll talk about that as well.
Great. Thank you.
Sweet. Yep. Okay. Awesome. So let's move on down to provider discussion then. In terms of recent releases, I believe that there's only one that I saw an announcement about since last community meeting. So there's a link to that in the marketplace, and also the release notes, and folks can dig into that on their time. So Raul asked a question about if we know there are any active developments on building providers for resources like VMware and Akamai. There are some I'm aware of, Rahul. There's I don't Jean, do you know if you could speak to like the latest updates on any of those type of provider efforts, or anything more up to date than the general status that I have?
Nothing, no additional info from me.
Got it. So so there had been some community efforts for both the VMware sort of thing. I don't think it touched NSX though. It was more like a vSphere sort of a focus, and I don't know a lot about VMware products, so I don't know how related those are. I'm sorry. And then there had been a bit of a start on an Akamai provider as well. So not. I guess basically the main takeaway there is that there's not a big push that I'm aware of behind them, or like the engineering team at Upbound doesn't have any current plans of making official providers for those or things like that. So that's what I can say about that now. But if we can find some links to any of those ongoing efforts, then please let's add those to the agenda document here, so for a little bit easier discoverability for Rahul. And then, we can kind of follow up and with the community effort on those providers, but there's not big concerted efforts that I know of. This is the real answer there.
Great, thank you, George.
All right, so John, I will definitely let you take this one about the latest update about provider performance.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Eric. So last week we released some test images for folks to play with, and Matt and Adam in the community really gave us a lot of good feedback. We picked up on specifically an issue relating to authentication that we weren't catering for, and the team is implementing a whole bunch of work around that. More specifically, we're delegating some of the authentication work down to the Terraform layer. Our initial tests have proven to be successful. We're still just making sure we cover all our bases internally in QA, but we everything going well, we should provide a new AWS provider tomorrow for testing. And then if that one goes well, based on the feedback, we'll do a round of updated releases for the official providers next week. I'll kind of I link to some of the latest summaries of performance improvement, and these are obviously specific to the specific configuration we tested, and they're very specific, and your mileage may vary based on your specific environment and configurations, etc. But we've seen significant improvement across the board, and we have various ideas that we've already started looking into and gathering plans for how we can further improve this. Like when we make the next release with improved performance, that's not the end of the journey for us. We've got a whole program ahead of us where we're looking at strengthening the quality and the performance aspects of the providers now that we've gotten the coverage, and we'll keep releasing improvements going forward. So yeah, look out. The main place where we'll announce early test images will be in the community Slack channel. So have a look there. If you want to be an early tester of that, give us feedback, and we'll communicate widely once we are ready for folks to start consuming the new providers.
Awesome, John. That is definitely a good update to share there. And then I also wanted to, extend a appreciation and gratitude for all the folks in the community that are continuing to help with testing and, providing results and observations and data from their environments as well. That has been very helpful to continue to give us a complete view of and validation for all the fixes and effort that we're doing. So this has been great to see the community rallying around this issue together. All right, so John, you talked about most all of these issues here for what the Upbound engineers are working on specifically right now. I did want to call out this as well, that Christopher Haar received an award recently from Upbound for a Care for Our Communities award. So it's all the effort that Christopher has put into like basically everything in the community, right? Like your name's all over the place. You're helping people out on Slack constantly. You're, obviously an important part of the provider AWS. You're everywhere, and you're really having an impact on the project and with a lot of people, man. So thank you very much for all your effort and success that you've had in helping this project, Christopher. So yeah, you're awesome, man.
Thanks for this, to be part of the community. Yeah.
Right on, man. All right. So then let's move on down to the community topics section here. There's a number of pieces of content for folks to peruse and read on their time. I think that there's an in-person meetup in Seattle. If anybody's in the Pacific Northwest area, Nick is going to be presenting and talking about Crossplane there. So if you want to do a little face-to-face action and get to hang out with Nick a little bit, you can definitely join this Seattle Kubernetes meetup group. And I think it is what day is this? March 28th. So, yep, that has not happened yet. It's in 5 days. Let me write that down on March 28th. And then also there is a Kubernetes Communities Day in Israel that Victor is presenting at. And I think that was actually already this morning. So Victor may have completed this task in the past, and this has already happened today, I believe. Cool. And then a couple other blog posts and stuff. This is another cool blog post, I assume, that's in German. Christopher, feel free to read that and let me know if it isn't saying something good and positive. We'll take that feedback for sure. But yeah, I don't know German. All right, so let's get into the rest of the updates here. So on the topic of CRD scaling, installing fewer CRDs, there's not a massive update and a decision that has been made here. So the update here is that Nick Cope has been getting pretty deep now and leading an investigation into all the various proposed solutions that folks have thought of and really weighing the pros and cons of everything. So Nick has been very deep in that recently. There's not yet, a proposal that he has of this is the direction we should go. But when he gets to that point, he will make that public, and folks can weigh in on it and provide some feedback on it as well. But I just wanted to really give the update here that, Nick is pretty focused on this and making progress. And this is, what we believe to be one of the highest priorities we still have. So a lot of progress still being made on this one. And we'll hope to have another update for a, proposal out sometime soon. I wanted to also mention that thankfully slack.crossplane.io is back online again. So I know a number of people ran into issues over, I think it was about 6 or so days, almost a full week, where slack.crossplane.io, the landing page to get an invitation and join the Slack community, was essentially down. So I need to do one final update on this issue here to provide more information about the resolution. But essentially, the app that we were using to manage invitations for Slack and provide a self-service experience got way out of date. It's not maintained anymore. And then all of a sudden started failing with some certificate issues and deprecated APIs that it was calling in Slack and such. So we spent a fair amount of time diving into that and figuring out something to do there. When we arrived at what looks to be a decent experience and workaround for now, at least. This could end up being long-term because the experience is actually kind of good, where we have a simple website that just, so you can go to slack.crossplane.io with a very simple, nice URL there and go to like an official Slack landing page for invitation. There's a couple of small downsides to that, but the main point here is that people can self-service join the community again, join the Slack again, and this has been resolved. So nice updates there to share on that one. We will have more to share on this because there will be a big blog post going out about it tomorrow, both on the Crossplane blog and the CNCF blog. But the fuzz testing effort from the CNCF and AdaLogix is completed. And if you want a preview of or not really a preview, but it is the technical details as much as you can get into, we have uploaded, Adam from AdaLogix uploaded the full official report in PDF form to the Crossplane repo. So if you want to get into all the technical details of the fuzz testing effort, the bugs found, all that stuff, it is available on that PDF. And we will have a more high-level summary blog post that goes out. It'll be published tomorrow morning, both on Crossplane blog and on the CNCF blog as well. So we'll talk more about that, I think, next week once it's, all the announcements have been made, et cetera. Okay. So then we had a topic here to talk about promoting environment config to beta in the 1.12 timeframe. I don't think Max is on the call here today. Correct me if I'm wrong if you're here, Max, but there's been a little bit of discussion with Max online and Slack about what would need to be done to promote environment config to beta. So I think the call to action or the ask here from everybody in the community is for folks that are using environment config, we would love to hear any of your feedback for things that you think, essentially block its adoption or block its usage or behavior you would like to see that would be a breaking change that needs to be done before we mature to beta, essentially. There's a couple things we've captured in here in this list. The bottom two of those are not for sure going to be done. They're more ideas, and I need to sync up with Max about, what we want to implement and what exactly we're going to do. But any feedback that we get on either, hey, this feature is working great for me, or B, I need to see this, this, and this in order for it to continue maturing would be very, very useful. So we could take that all into account and continue, promoting and moving environment config along the maturity scale. Yuri, did you have more specifically that you wanted to add to that while we're here?
Yeah, so there are a couple of things. So the stuff works, right? So it basically like we receiving positive feedback from community, so people are already using it in its current state. We definitely lack documentation. That's one thing. There is also like a patch ordering, some surprises when you try to, if I remember correctly, patch from to a status from environment config. I already forget the details, but it's documented there in this issue. So ordering is not obvious, at least when you use it. And there is one like maybe more more serious thing, like from functionality standpoint, is I heard a request to enable environment config to we have a patch type from environment config, which is obvious like consuming environment config, and we also have a patch type to environment config, and this patch type currently works only for in-memory representation, meaning that we can share the updates only in like one composition, one single like instantiation of a claim, and it doesn't work for multiple claims like a shared storage mechanism. And if we enable it, this will make environment configs like seriously powerful. The obvious concern, when should we do it? Like, should it be before we want beta 1 stabilization? So we need to align on that part, right? So that's the main concern at this point.
And Yuri, is this the right patch type that you're referring to here, to environment field path?
Yeah, exactly. So that's the environment field path, and currently it patches only in-memory representation. It doesn't update the environment config CRD, right, in a Kubernetes API server side.
Yeah, and that one, I don't know if there's opinions from other folks that have been, utilizing this feature, but that one's a bit of that behavior is a bit of a surprise for me. That's not the way I would expect the feature to work, and I can assume that other folks would also expect the same thing. If I patch to this environment config, then it should be persistently reflected, and if I did like access it from another composition, then it would have that value reflected, etc. So I think in terms of a principle of least surprise, people in general would expect it to be persistently stored. That one seems like that would be, if that were to be done after maturing to beta, that feels like a behavior change, where that's something that would be once it's codified or into a matured API, that would be feels like definitely behavioral change. So I would say that makes sense if we're going to do that, because I don't have the full context on why it was implemented that way in the first place. But if we do want to make that change, I would advocate for that being before maturing to beta as well.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So realistically, we should kind of make a sequence. So implement this on alpha level, like patching in 1.12 and stabilization in some next release. Is that correct understanding? I mean,
say that again, Yuri. I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch the specifics.
So I don't think we will be able to do both, like implement the feature and stabilize in 1.12 timeframe. So
Yeah,
should we
most
prioritize
likely
like
not.
implementation? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the most likely way that would happen, I think. Yeah, so I recommend we go ahead. I take an action item here to follow up with Max about, hey, what can we do in 1.12? What can we prioritize? And if we do make some changes like that, then that's probably the time frame it would take to keep it in alpha for another release and then mature in the promote it in the 1.13 time frame. But we'll see the timelines on implementation there, or what Max's opinion is on doing that implementation in the first place, and the greater context here around the design choices.
Oh, sounds great. Thank you so much.
All right, so let me make this official as well, so that it goes to my inbox. Boop. All right. But yeah, the other opinions and experience that folks have to share about environment config, please do, if you have something to contribute right now, the floor is open, but also otherwise though, add it to 3770 linked from the agenda doc, so we can have it all in one place. All right, there was, I don't know, I cannot remember at least where this agenda item came from. I'm sure someone suggested this, that there was a discussion that started on Slack from Blake around end-to-end testing for Crossplane official providers, etc. I am not up to date on what was included in that discussion, but I would validate that this is a very helpful step forward for having more assurance about regression, avoiding regressions, the quality levels kept up for each release, etc. So if folks want to add some thoughts right now about end-to-end testing, integration testing within Crossplane, the floor is open for that. And I'm reviewing on my other screen over here what folks were saying in that discussion too. Okay, so I think that Blake had an action item there, or had a follow-up to open up some discussion with some of his thoughts there. I don't think that's been done yet though, but let me search real quick to see if there was a discussion that got linked. 1 second. GitHub was a little slow today. It always seems to go slowly, most slowly when you need it as well.
It looks like the discussion where I actually participated.
Anything coming back to you there, Yuri?
Yeah. So long story short, so the question was about end-to-end testing of providers initially, right? So, and my view on things that we already invested heavily in end-to-end testing with Uptest and associated pipelines, but Nick proposed some more test cycle that touches more grounds, like including the core Crossplane together. So that's some proposals that apparently resonated. Jason, you want to add?
Yeah,
something?
no, I was in this thread as well. I think we were talking. I'm happy to help where I can. I think some of the things from our perspective were some of the secondary references might have been missing. So we were wondering which one of the services were being tested or used. In that they're all generated, and I don't know which ones from the Upjet provider version, which ones were used versus not, so we can make sure we catch all of those usability things that make it a lot more usable. I'm happy to help test and help do whatever I can to help move this along.
Oh, thank you so much. That's actually a great point. So in current state of things, we have a test pipelines and examples directory, right? So and current examples directory is mostly generated. So we tested it, and it's generated from original Terraform registry example documentation. So, and we tested that's a source of it's our test suite. That's how we supported the development of official provider. So it obviously doesn't cover all permutations. So if you create a pull request that adds additional examples with additional reference, and we run just test examples for it, we validate that Uptest is green, it will be amazing contribution, and it will extend this regression test suite. So thank you.
I will do that, yes.
Yeah, that's a good point, Yuri. And Jean, I don't know if you have more that you would like to add about the general status of Uptest, integration, Uptest coverage for all the provider resources and the unofficial providers, beyond what Yuri was just saying. If there's is that every single resource is tested and has a Uptest run for it, or what's the full coverage there?
Yeah, so every resource that has an example configured, and part of our kind of criteria to have a resource at V1 beta 1 is that it needs to have an example and it needs to pass end-to-end testing. there are some resources that we, that for various reasons, like, whether it's elevated permissions or requires multiple accounts or various things that it's not possible to easily at the moment do end-to-end testing on. And we do have a manual intervention tag on those, where we've manually verified that they work. But every time there's like if we do an upgrade on the upstream Terraform providers and we pick up a change on one of these resources, all of those resources are retested, either end-to-end or manual. We have some plans, more medium term, to strengthen the examples. We even have some ideas with our friend GPT-4 to maybe help us generate some more of those examples to broaden our test suite there. So there's various. It's early stages, nothing concrete yet. Our immediate focus is on the performance stuff, but as part of our strategic direction that we're looking at now that we've got to a coverage point that we're happy with is around quality and performance. And we're also in the process of actually defining, what does quality mean for the official providers, and we'll be sharing more of that with the community in the coming weeks.
Awesome, John. Thank you for sharing that. Definitely appreciate that. All right, and then so if Blake wants to continue that conversation as well with the discussion, then we could still follow up on it that way too. I wanted to make a quick note here that thank you, John, for taking the old meetings and archiving them into a separate document. I think we had meeting notes from I don't know, like 2018 or so. So this current meeting notes document was getting a little unwieldy with load times and scrolling and stuff like that. Yeah, I went all the way back to 2018 and it was 176 pages. So John asked me to do that and I did not follow up. And so a great way to get things done when Jared doesn't follow up is do it yourself. So excellent work there, John, for going ahead and creating that archive document for all the old meeting notes. And note that it is linked from the bottom here as well. So if you scroll down and you get back into 2022, there's a direct link to see the old meeting agenda notes from there. So nothing's lost, but we are below 20 pages now as opposed to 170 something. So thank you for doing that, John. And I've lost my place now. There we go. Okay. And then next agenda item here, looks like there is a issue that has been opened about the EKS managed node group with composition functions.
Yes.
Oh, Bottle Rocket. Okay. Yes. Jason, you have a context here?
Just really quick. And I'm happy if I'm hopefully it's something we're doing wrong. But we're working through this and we're running managed node groups, obviously using Bottle Rocket. And we can launch containers, we can launch things in Crossplane, but where we get stuck is when this launches, this is just the error generically. Someone on our team's helping with this. And what happens is it shows up and it says no space left on device. It's like the wrong error, but it's having a problem allocating for the second container to come down on Bottle Rocket. I'm wondering if there's a fix or a way around it, or if it's just a functional limitation of Bottle Rocket. I don't know if someone in AWS, I think Manabu's on the call, or Carlos is on the call, if they know any more detail about that. It just feels, and it's very specific to Amazon, but again, I think it's also kind of important.
I faced the same issue today in our installation. It's not possible to use at the moment, but I will have more look tomorrow. If I have more time, what's the issue? But it's exactly the same that you have.
Okay.
So if it is limited by kernel capabilities, it's just not enough access rights, most probably, right, for a composition function runner, because it's using some like privileged access, something around it.
So we'd have to run another set of nodes just to run a composition function, I guess.
Well, in the current implementation, yes. I'm not telling that it is desired implementation.
Yeah, so I think this at least warrants, Jason, at least warrants a deeper investigation into, the machinery and the mechanics that the current composition function runner does in order to, set up the environments to execute the function and, the capabilities it needs to do that, et cetera. And then the constraints that, a more lockdown environment like BottleRocket might have is at least warrants an investigation to see if there's, a way to make the functionality work in this type of environment as well. I know that at least in the initial alpha implementation, that's we focused on getting it working for a broad range of environments, but this is definitely a classic example of more lockdown environments and things, capabilities that are needed or assumed to be present, not being there in those environments. So I don't think we have an answer for this right now, but I'd say it warrants at least an investigation to see if there is a change that can be made to facilitate or these ones too.
I just wanted to track it to figure out if there's a best recommended path forward.
Yep. And then Jason, it looks like you did also added a link to then track this in the composition functions, the beta issue as well then, right?
Yep.
Cool. Yep, that's a great place to put that so we don't lose track of this one. And then Christopher, if you do end up looking into this more and add and find more observations and stuff, feel free to add that as well. And then also any of the Amazon folks, that are on the call now or may have an opportunity to provide insight on this one. I know Manabu and Carlos are on. If you guys have some insight, we always welcome that as well too.
Yeah, I'll take a look.
Yeah, no insights
Sweet.
right now, but yeah, good to catch this type of problems in constrained environments.
Yeah, for sure. And report it as well. So yeah, thanks for taking the time to do that. Cool. All right, everybody. So I think that's the full set of things that were in the agenda documents. I don't see anything else in the chat. So are there any other topics that folks want to bring up before we adjourn for the week?
Hey, Jared. This is Arvind. I just message on the Slack about can I join the committee meeting. So I have one question. So we are using Crossplane, and we are using Crossplane to provision all our EKS cluster using the provider AWS. And it's working fine till now, and we are managing roughly around 40-50 clusters, maybe. We came across it's an interesting problem where if managed node group of one cluster, somehow that name of node group is taken to some other cluster, it is overriding the cluster context itself. It is overriding, it is trying to recreate the node group or delete the node group of the existing cluster. This is the issue which I faced. I think I'll create a issue itself in GitHub. That will be much more better with proper context. But yeah, this meeting was really interesting and insightful to me for the first time I joined. Thanks for everyone. Thanks to everyone.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for sharing that experience there. Did you say, Arvind, that there was already an issue that was tracking that was open, or there's no issue yet?
No. There is no issue created yet. I'll try to first replicate that in our lower environment, then maybe I'll create that issue.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds perfect then. Like any context and observations you can add to an issue, then we can follow up with it there. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, and then thanks for being able to join today as well.
Thank you.
All right. So then, if that's everything, then we can go ahead and adjourn for the day. And while I hold my dog so she doesn't bark as much, there's a package that was just delivered. But yeah, great to see everybody this week, and we'll keep following up on everything for 1.12 and providers and all that stuff too.
Cheers, thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. Cheers.
See you, everybody.